Everyone that needs refuah shleima, learning their schus. We're starting on ayin. That's 70a. Ayin number aleph. It's maybe 8 lines from the top of the page. So we had different cases in the Mishnah of when a person is chayev one chatas if he forgets about the whole concept of Shabbos. He's chayev one chatas for each Shabbos. That's if he forgets that it is Shabbos. He knows Shabbos, he just forgets that today's Shabbos. Or he's chayev 39 chatas for each malacha. That's if he knows that it's Shabbos, but he forgets about the malachas.
Well, why don't you shut everyone's microphone?
Oh. It's called Shigigas Malachas. So here we're learning Chayev al kol malacha malacha. He's Chayev for each malacha. That means 39. The Gemara asks the question, Chiluk malachas minalan. Where do you know this from? You see, the Gemara right here at this point is looking at malachas like if a person eats chaylev, and then he goes ahead and he eats more chaylev, and he doesn't remember in between that he doesn't remember that it was prohibited or whatever the forgetfulness was over there. He doesn't have to bring 2 chatayis. So here also he didn't know in the middle that he did an aveira. So he did a malacha, he did a different malacha. How do you know that each one occurs? It's all one Shabbos. It's all one violation of Shabbos. How do you know that each one incurs its own carbon? It could be that you just combine them all as a Shabbos violation. So Amar Shmuel says we learn it from Psukim. We're going to ask on Shmuel from several other places. Shmuel's going to say from here, we're going to say maybe you should learn it from there, and maybe you should learn it from some other place. Amar Kra, the pasuk says, Mechalala Maisumas. Someone that violates Shabbos shall surely be put to death. Maisumas. So the fact that it says Maisumas, it could have said Yumas, as it says in other places, Kalaisa by Malacha Yumas. It says Maisumas. So Atayra Ribsa Mises Harbe Al Chil Echad. The Torah gives us an increase of deaths for one chilul. Which means one chilul. It means that you do all of these malachas. The Gemara asks the question 1 second. Mais Yumas doesn't say about shaygig. That it says about mezid. Hay b'mezid ksiv. So Taisus over here asks that we can answer this question very easily. You can say that it's impossible to apply to mezid maisumas many deaths because you can't have many deaths. So therefore, it must be referring to a shaygig. But the Gemara doesn't do that. What the Gemara does is, the Gemara says, the Gemara answers like this. Meina inyan lemezid, we don't need this pasuk from Mezid, because for Mezid, if it's prohibitions of Shabbos are done on purpose, so for that I have the ksiv kalaisa bay malacha yumas. Over there I have a pasuk that says already someone that violates Shabbos b'Mezid is put to death. So if I don't need it from Mezid, so this is rule. If I have a verse that's not needed for this, so I'll apply it to something else. So meina inyan lemezid. So teneyu inyan l'shaygig. So you apply it to a shaygig. So by a shaygig, it's going to tell me that mais yumas, the many deaths that happen, is the many sacrifices. So the Gemara says, my yumas, so why does it say death? It says yumas b'mamin. It means he has to pay extra money. That's considered death. We have that in other places. We have... Is
Mechalalea singular or plural?
Mechalala would be singular. Mechalala, I think, would be plural. So is that what you're asking? That instead of the yumas, the double expression should be from the mechalalaha?
Could be from that, because we're talking about the many melachos.
Right. I was taking the maisumas from the way Rashi puts it. Maisumas, Rashi says misas harbe. That's where I got it from. But maybe there's other ways of learning this. It's interesting. We have another source that yumas means money by if an animal kills a man, someone's ox kills a man, so it says v'gam ba'ol of yumas, you have to pay kaifer. Also, the owner gets put to death. The owner actually doesn't get put to death. It means he has to pay money. So yumas could mean paying money. If an animal kills, someone's animal kills another man, it's a gambal of yumas, it says. But the Gemara says that means he pays money.
Actually, I'm not sure. I think Mechalaleh is more of a reference to Shabbos. Mechalaleh ha. It's a reference to the Shabbos. It's not the person.
Yeah, so what would mechalala mean? Mechalala would be the ha is a, they call that an object suffix. The object suffix, right? Because in Hebrew you can put the subject and the object in the same word. So mechalala, one that profanes it or her, the her is the Shabbos, and the subject, the one that profanes, is it the one or the ones that profane?
I think the yud makes it plural. Mechalala would be singular.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Need a good Tanakh translation. Okay. So the Gemara has a question now. We said we have a source for chilik malachas that a person could be chayev for a bunch of malachas that he does on Shabbos. He chayev separate chatos for each one, even though he doesn't know in middle that he did a violation. Nevertheless, it's divided up because they're different malachas. Even though it's one violation of Shabbos, different malachas, it's chayav different chatos. He learns that from Maisiumas, Mechalem Maisiumas. Mechalem Maisiumas teaches me that there's many chiyuvim for one chilul. Where it says v'teipaklei chiluk malachas mehechad denafka leila Reb Nassan. Why do we need this new limud? Shmuel's coming up with. We have Tanaim that already discussed this, and Reb Nassan says that there's chiluk malachas. Now, this is a famous brisa. Actually, the end of it is what's more famous. But goes like this. The Tanya was taught in a brisa. You see, usually it doesn't tell us in the Torah what malachas of Shabbos are. It just says you should guard the Shabbos, remember the Shabbos, don't do work on Shabbos. It doesn't tell us any, like exactly which work. I can't weave or, it doesn't say those things. So, but by starting a fire, it's an exception. And it says you shouldn't burn a fire on Shabbos in all your dwelling places. Ma Talmud Laimar. Why does it say that? What is that pasuk teaching me? So it says like this: Lafishin Emar Vayakol Moshe Kol Das Bnei Yisrael Eila Hadvarim Sheishim Tas Malacha. It says that Moshe gathered all the people. And he said, "These are the things that you should do. 6 days you should do work, and on the 7th day you should rest." So when it says Eila Hadvarim, the Gemara learns out Dvarim means two things. That's a plural. And Hadvarim, there's an extra hey there. It doesn't say davar, so davar would mean a thing. Dvarim is a plural, is two. And Hadvarim is an extra letter. Eila is the gematria of 36. Lamed Hey is 35. And the Aleph is an extra one, is 36. So 36 plus 2 plus 1, which is 3. 36 plus 3 is 39. That's what we learn that there's 39 malachas. That's we learned from here. We mentioned before in brachas we had a reference to a ches being changed for a hey being changed to a ches. We said Eila could itself be 39 if you count the hey as a ches. And we learned this about Chilul. We mentioned this. Chilul. Anyway, this is how the Bavli says it. The Yerushalmi says it the other way.
Which case in the Mishnah are we learning now?
Now we're doing he remembers that it's Shabbos, but he doesn't remember that these malachas are asr. So he's doing all the malachas of Shabbos. He's chayev for each malacha that he does a different karban. And meanwhile, he doesn't know that he did any prohibition until the end, even though he did plowing and planting and and harvesting and all of that. He did everything. So he's chayev a different one. And we're asking what's the source for that you should be chayev when it's just all the same Shabbos prohibition, if you look at the general. That's what we're asking.
So it's the third case.
The third case, right. The third case.
But the third case in the mission doesn't say malaka umalacha. It says av malaka umalacha.
Oh, yeah.
Which we previously learned meant
av
and toldos. So this mission, this quote leaves out a word and then goes into a whole drasha, but it's not a correct quote to begin with.
Right. That's interesting. I don't think though that it's going to change the context though. But yeah, it is. You're correct that it left out the word. It doesn't bother me that much because these quotes was a printer that put them back in to help me. It's a reference note that a printer was involved in. I think sometimes he leaves out the chulu. Sometimes it's not. It's like he could have quoted something more direct. These in between the brackets is the printer, I think, dividing up the Mishnayos for us to be able to learn the Gemara.
Thank you.
It's like the boldness of the Rashis. You see, if you have a Gemara that has Rashis in bold, every once in a while they'll miss one. They'll miss one Dibra Maschil heading, and they'll leave it out. It won't be bold. Whoever they gave the job to use the different font over there, and they missed one.
The reason
it happens
on it is this is really tortured reasoning from Shmuel.
To
Eily
say
is 36 and Hadavarim is 3.
No, yeah. So on that, we didn't finish the logic here. That we're just asking. Shmuel learns it from Mesyumas, but Reb Nosson learns it from somewhere else. Why doesn't Shmuel go back to an earlier Tana and learn it from Reb Nosson? So now we're just in the middle of discussing Reb Nosson's opinion. So Reb Nosson says that we have 39. Now let's go on. Maybe if someone does all 39, he's only chayav one karban. Maybe. We have another pasuk. It says that you should rest from plowing and harvesting. Now, I mentioned before that there's only one malacha that it actually says what you're not allowed to do, and that's lighting a fire. Here you see there's another one. So Rashi mentions. Let me go a drop further. I'll go back to that Rashi. So from the fact that it says b'char shevakatzit tishbais, that tells me that I should be chayev for not just one malacha, one chatas for all the malachas. So I should be chayev for individual malachas. It says 1 second. Maybe it's only charisha and ktsira that are chayev individually. Charisha means plowing. Ktsira is harvesting. Maybe only those get individual. So basically what we're going to come out with is we'll have 30. We'll end up only having 3 chatayos if someone does all the malachas. Charisha, ktsira, and then all the other ones will go under one category. That's what the Gemara is suggesting here. Talmud Leimar le'sevaru eish. It says no, le'sevaru eish. That's going to tell me that I'm chayev for each individual malacha separately. And now we're going to use this to ask, Why does Shmuel need mais yumas? Reb Nosson learns it from Leisavar Eish. How does he learn? It goes like this. Tavara b'chlal haisa. Definitely one of the malachas was lighting a fire. V'lama yatzis. Why does it get individual attention that the Torah specifies it? Lahakeshela. It's coming to compare to it. Lai malach. Ma havara she'av malacha v'chayav la b'fnei atzma. Just like havara, which is an av malacha, which is chayav on its own. So af kol she'av malacha chayav la b'fnei atzma. Every malacha is going to be similar to that. It's going to be chayav on its own. We know that will be 39 chatos. Okay, so we have to explain, first of all, what we just did was we made a rule. We're employing a rule of one of the 13 of Rabbi Shmuel, which is kol davar shahaya bechlal. Anything that was originally included in the general category of don't do malacha on Shabbos. V'yatza min haklal, but it left the category to get its own individual specification. Don't do this either. It's not coming to teach about itself that there's a chatas for itself. It's coming to teach me about the whole general rule, which is that every single malacha is going to get its own chatas as well. That's the lima that Reb Nosson is using here. This is a great example of that rule. There's others, but this is okay. Now, what we left unclear was we already had kol davar shaya bechlal v'yatzim min haklal by becharish uv'katzer, by plowing and harvesting. We already said that. So this is where Rashi says that those two would not suffice. Rashi says, first of all, it's a machlekes Rabbi Kiva and Rabbi Shmuel. What that pasuk teaches me. Rabbi Akiva learns that it has to do with Tosefes Shvius. It's talking about Shemitah. In that becharish of a katzer, plowing and harvesting of Shemitah, you have to add to the Shemitah year, and maybe learning that over there it says Bashvi means not Shabbos, means the Shemitah year, and you have to add to it and start the Shemitah year earlier, for things that are going to grow during the next year. That's Rabbi Akiva's drasha. And Rabbi Shmuel's drasha is b'charish of a katzer tishbais. It's referring to Shabbos, but it's coming to tell me an exception of a certain time I am allowed to harvest and plow on Shabbos, and that's for harvesting I'm allowed to on Shabbos. That's for harvesting the Omer. If Pesach is on Shabbos, I can take the grain. Or Pesach is on Erev Shabbos, I guess. I can take the grain that night for the next day's for the Omer sacrifice. I can harvest it on Shabbos. That's what he learned. How does he learn that? B'charish v'katzer tishbais. He says just like charish is always when it's not a mitzvah. So too, only when it's not a mitzvah, you're not allowed to do this on Shabbos. But when it is a mitzvah to harvest, which is for the Omer, then you're allowed to do that on Shabbos. That's okay. So whatever the case is, I'm using that for other things, and I'm not using it for this. Rashi says why actually don't use it for this. So he says, so here he says two things. He says like this. I have a general rule, don't do work on Shabbos. That's a negative prohibition. Then I have a positive command to rest from charish of a katzer, from harvesting. And don't tell me that you have a negative prohibition and you have a positive that's Yatsa min haklal. Positive was never included in the negative. That's a separate mitzvah. So he says that's one reason why you can't use that rule called davar shei bechlal for b'charish v'katzer. But I could use it for leisavar eish, because that's another negative. So the leisavar eish is one of the negatives that's yatsa min haklal, that leaves the general negative prohibition of don't do work on Shabbos. Then Rashi tells us that also with Shnei Ksuvim Abam Keachad, it says B'charish Uvekatzer, and I can't learn from Shnei Ksuvim. Remember, we had this a lot in Kachim and Zvachim and Achas. Shnei Ksuvim Abam Keachad in Malamdim, if it says twice, if it wanted to make a binyan av, want to tell me to learn, then I would only say it once. The fact that you told it to me twice tells me that you needed a second one. You needed to repeat it to get the second halacha out of it. That means that you can't learn from it. So the b'charish uvekatzer isn't going to work. But I do have another one, a third one that goes back to malam. That's leisav aruish. That's Rashi says that. Okay. We left off with the question. Shmuel learns that you need the Maisiumas to teach me that Chiluk Malachas. Turns out we have an earlier source. We have Reb Nassan. My answer is Shmuel Savalak Rabbi Yosi. Shmuel holds with the dissenting opinion that argues with Reb Nassan. That's Rabbi Yosi's opinion. Damar Havara Lalav Yatzis. He says that Havara means making a fire, is not telling me that the rule of Kol Davar Shayi B'chlal V'yatzim Min HaKlal Lamed, and it's coming to tell me that Yechayev on every single malacha. That's not what it's doing. It's leaving the rule for a specific reason. And what is that reason? It says, the Tanya was taught in a Braisa, Havara Lalav Yatzis Divrei Rabbi Yosi. And Reb Nassan Melachalak Yatzis. So we have a machlekes what Leisavaru Eish is doing. According to Rabbi Yosi, every malacha that a person does, if he does it b'mezid with witnesses, he's chayiv skila. He does it b'mezid without witnesses, he's chayiv kares. And if he does it b'shegi, he's chayiv chatas. With the exception, Rabbi Yosi says, of lighting a fire. There's no kares or skila on lighting a fire. Why? Because over there I have a specific rule, a specific warning, a lav, leisav. It's a regular lav, and which means that it's just a regular negative prohibition. It removed it from kares and skila. Lighting a fire on Shabbos is more lenient, according to Rabbi Yosi, than doing other malachas, than watering your plants. That's lalav yatzis. It went out just to teach me that it's only a lav. And Rabbi Nassan says, no, it's l'chalak yatzis. It's coming to tell me a division in each malacha that you get 39, that you have 39 chatais. It's coming to teach me that general rule. Okay. So Shmuel holds like Rabbi Yosi, so he couldn't use Leisavaru to teach this to me. The Gemara says, "V'teipiklei l'chiluk malachas meichad denafkalei Rabbi Yosi." But Rabbi Yosi agrees. He doesn't disagree with this. He holds that Leisavaru has a special halacha, granted. But all the other malachas are divided, and you get the person has to bring a chatas for each one. Where does he know that from? Wherever he knows it from, Shmuel should have used Rabbi Yosi's. If he holds like Rabbi Yosi, let him use the Rabbi Yosi's logic. The Tanya was started in a brayso, Rabbi Yosi Yomer, v'asa meyachas meheina. This is by a carbon chatas. It says that if someone will do one of these, or I should say that, if someone will do from these, and the Gemara explains that there's some extra prefixes in there and extra words. It only needed to say v'asa achas. Why does it have to say mei achas from one, meheina from these? So the Gemara says like this. This is Rabbi Yosi. Pam shechayaven achas al kulam, pam shechayaven al kol achas v'achas. Sometimes you could be chayav one malacha, one chatas for many malachas, and sometimes you're chayav many chatais for each one. And Amar Rabbi Yosi Rabbi Chanina is early Amir in Eretz Yisrael. He explains my time with the Rabbi Yosi. How does Rabbi Yosi get this? It says like this. It says the word achas, but it also says mei achas. It says, so in other words, there's an achas inside the word mei achas, from one. It says heina, which means these. Mei heina, from these. So what is the achas? Achas shi heina, heina shi achas. Sometimes it's one, which is heina, which is many. Sometimes it's many, which is one. And then it says achas, one. That teaches me if someone writes a full name, he does the malacha that he wanted to write. Let's say the person's name was Shimon. He's writing his name Shimon. So he writes the full name Shimon. What does it mean? Me'achas, from one. On the top of the page, 70b, it says Shem Shimon. He writes Shem from Shimon. The other Gemara says Shem Shmuel. I forget what that is. Later on, Shem Shmuel. That's the name. There was the name of the sefer that became Shem Shmuel. You see, he does part of the. He does over here. He does only part of the malach. He does Shem Shimon. In other words, he wrote a full word, but it wasn't the intention that he originally started when he was writing. Yeah, I know there's a final mem and whatever. Apparently, they didn't always use that. So he wrote Shem. That's me'achas, from one. He did part of the malacha that he was intending to do, but since that's a full malacha, he'd be chayav for that as well. How does Heina work? So Heina is avos. That's if he does an av. Me'heina is even if he does a tolda as well, is going to be chayav. Okay. So far we didn't get to our point. Here we're just using this pasuk achas me'heina. If the person does one of these and he has to bring a korban chatas from these. So now it goes to the point that we were looking for. Achas sheheina. What is one, which is these? That is Zadin Shabbos v'shigas malachas. He does many malachas, and he knows that it's Shabbos, so that's called Zadin Shabbos. He has full awareness of that it's Shabbos, but it's shigas malachas. He forgot that these malachas are asa. So that's when he has to bring many karbanas. Heina shiachas, these which is one. When does he do many, which he only has to bring one chatas? That's shigagas Shabbos v'zadin malachas. That's if he knows that these malachas are all aser, but he doesn't know that today's Shabbos. So there's one forgetting there. He only has to bring one karban for all of those malachas. Whatever the case is, we've just learned that Rabbi Yosi, that holds that Leisavaru Eish, is not telling me chilik malachas, but he still agrees to chilik malachas, that each malacha that a person does on Shabbos has its own chatas, and he learns it from achas meheina, as Rabbi Yosi bar Bechanina explained to Rabbi Yosi. So why does Shmuel need to tell me about Ma'is Yumas? He could have learned from Reb Nosson, which he chose not to learn from Reb Nosson because he holds like Rabbi Yosi. So if he holds like Rabbi Yosi, let him follow Rabbi Yosi. Okay. So the Gemara says, Shmuel achas sheheina ve'ena sheachas le'mashmulei. He doesn't hold of that limit. It doesn't have that meaning to him. So therefore, he learns it from this other source. Rashi says, achas meheina, he uses it entirely for Shem Mishimon and for Toldos. He used it already. He doesn't have that third limit here. Okay. Rava Reb Nachman. Rava has a question from Reb Nachman. So far it was a little easy. It gets a little complex. It gets more complex later. This is like warming you up a little bit. It says, Helam zev biyadei ma'u. Person forgot it's Shabbos. And he also forgot that these malachas are aser even if it was Shabbos. So, forgetting that it's Shabbos means that he's only chayav one karban. Forgetting that these malachas are aser means that he's chayav a karban for each one. So he has both. Now, which one is the main one? This is Rava's question. So, Amalei, harei helam Shabbos biyadei. What's the problem? Rav Nachman says, we go lenient. He forgot that it's Shabbos. So, ve'ena chayav alachas. It's not going to be chayav extra. The fact is, he doesn't know that it's Shabbos. He's only chayav one karban for all the malachas that he did. Okay. The Gemara asks, or maybe it's Rav asking Rav Nachman, Adarabba, 1 second. Why are you saying like that? Well, you chose one side. Hari hela malachas biyadi. But he also forgot the malachas. V'chayv al kalachas v'achas. You just chose one, like arbitrarily. What about the other side? Yeah, Rashi mentions that really we should know this from the Mishnah. Because in the Mishnah it says if someone doesn't know Shabbos, so he's chayev one korban for all the Shabbosim. Now, if he doesn't know the concept of Shabbos, he also doesn't know the concept of malachas. So we already have our answer. He doesn't know Shabbos, he doesn't know malachas. So why is Rav asking Rav Nachman the Shaila? So Rashi says, here he does know the concept of Shabbos, but he forgot that it's Shabbos. So, and he also knows the malachas, but he forgot the malachas. I don't know if that makes a difference. But whatever the case is, we have two ways of looking at it. We can look at it the general forgetting of Shabbos, or we can look at the malachas. So here it's different. We can't prove it from the Mishnah, is what Rashi says. So, Elam Rav Ashi. Rav Ashi suggests an answer. This answer was suggested before as well by Rav Safra, and it got rejected. He says, Chazinan, imishum Shabbos kaparish, if when you would remind him that he's doing something wrong, so you would tell him it's Shabbos. So then, Hariyel Shabbos biyadek. So then, it's obviously what's causing him to do this malacha is a Shabbos. So he's forgetting Shabbos. Then vein chayiv alachas. Then he would only be chayiv one. So this is very interesting because what the Gemara is suggesting here is that he doesn't even know that it's a malacha. But when someone tells him that it's Shabbos, he would recognize that it's a malacha as well. So but the fact is, he's telling that it's Shabbos. Okay, then it says, V'mishum malacha kaparish, but if you tell him that, 1 second, you're Zereya, you're Chayresh. So then, Harei Hela malachas biyadi, V'chayav al kolachas v'achas, and be chayav. So we have a way of resolving this. Amalei Ravina l'Ravashi. Ravina says to Rashi, 1 second. When you tell him that it's Shabbos, so why is he going to stop? It's because the malacha that it is. It's because it's a malacha on Shabbos, and that's the message that he's getting. And then the same thing is Shabbos. If you tell him it's a malacha, it's only because of Shabbos. This is just words that are being used, but that's not the actual the implication of these words is much more than just those words. It's Shabbos with a malacha. So you're using one word, but that doesn't determine how many karbanos he should have to bring. Ella loishna. Rather, for that, it doesn't make a difference. Rashi then adds in over here, ve'ina chayev ala achas. He's only chayev one. Now, I'm not sure how loishna means that. Loishna means you could have gone both ways with this. I think Rashi's understanding that Ravina himself, because he's arguing on Rav Ashi, I'm not sure how Rashi understands that. I'm not sure where in the Gemara it's implied that's. But that seems to be the conclusion from Ella Leishna, that she should only be chayav one karban for all of those malachas that he did. I'm not sure. It's interesting that Rashi does that. Okay, Tanan. Now we have a Mishnah. There's a Mishnah later on. We'll have on Sunday or something. Monday, I think. There's 40 malachas. minus 1, 39. We asked on it, what do you need the number for? We have the list. You can count it out. Why do you have to tell me the number? So we had this Gemara yesterday, I think. Rabbi Yochanan explains that if you did all of those malachas, you're going to be chayiv for each one. Even in one forgetting, you'll be chayiv 39. That's the limit. Now, if it's possible, if a person is chayiv for each malacha, even though he forgets that it's Shabbos, he doesn't know that it's Shabbos, and he doesn't know the malachas, and nevertheless he's chayiv on each one. So that's why we need the number. He doesn't know that it's Shabbos, and he doesn't know that these malachas are aser. So he's chayiv for each one. Okay, good. Ella I amre tell him Shabbos biyadei chayiv ala achas. But if we say that if a person doesn't know the concept of Shabbos, and he doesn't know the malachas as well, but the main point over here is Shabbos. No, the Shabbos is the strong. He doesn't know that it's Shabbos, even though he doesn't know all the malachas. And he did all the malachas. But because he doesn't know that it's Shabbos, he's only b'chayav one chatas. How's it going to be possible, the case of knowing Shabbos and forgetting all the malachas? Well, we had this Gemara before and we explained it. If he holds like Rabbi Yochanan that says, what's considered a shogeg? If you don't know the severity of the malacha, then we can understand that he knows that it's Shabbos, but he doesn't know, and he knows that these malachas are aser, but he doesn't know that these malachas have kares, so that's considered a shogeg. He didn't know the severity of the malachas. So just knowing them itself doesn't make him amazed. Just remembering a list, if he doesn't know the severity of that, they're all kares. So mishkachas la diyadul Shabbos. So he knows Shabbos because he knows that there's malachas, that things that he's not allowed to do on Shabbos. He just doesn't know that these are really forbidden. He just knows that they're forbidden. Doesn't know that they're kares forbidden. So that's considered a shogeg. So he knows, he thinks that Shabbos is just a negative prohibition, but not kares. But if he holds a Reb Shimon ben Lakish that says, what's considered a shogeg when he doesn't know that it's even prohibited? The Yodel Shabbos b'mai. So what does he know about Shabbos? What are you telling me that he knows Shabbos and he doesn't know the malachas? If that means that he doesn't know anything about the malachas, so what does he know about Shabbos? So we answered this before. My suggestion was that he knows about Shalom, but Taisa suggested that he knows about Kiddush, but apparently that wasn't enough either. The Gemara answers the Yadla Betchumen, Ba'aliba de Rabbi Akiva, that he knows about Tchum Shabbos. He knows that he's not allowed to walk outside the city, 2,000 amas. So he knows that there's some restraint there, even though that's not one of the malachas that's going to be chayav b'chatas. It's not one of the 39. So we have an answer. We tried to say that this should be a proof that if someone knows, if someone forgets about Shabbos and he forgets all the malachas, that it should be chayav for each one. It's not really a proof. It could be that case is where he knows that it's Shabbos. What does he know about Shabbos if he doesn't know any of the malachas? He knows Tchum Shabbos. It's not a real proof that both forgettings still incur the punishment of a carbon for each one. Doesn't prove that. That could be where he doesn't have both forgettings. He really has only one forgetting, and he still knows Shabbos. Okay, Amar Rava. Rava says like this. The last one was a question from Rava. Here we have a statement from Rava, which is going to end in a question. It's going to end in a machlekes, we'll see. Katzar v'tachan k'greigris b'Shabbos. someone harvests grain and he grinds grain the size of a fig, which is the amount which is chayav on Shabbos. And he did that b'shigigas Shabbos v'zadan malachas. He forgot that it was Shabbos. What's the rule if you forget that it's Shabbos and you do more than one malacha? So you only chayav one karban because it was one forgetting. It was a forgetting of Shabbos. So he did two separate malachas, grinding and harvesting, but because it was one forgetting, it was a forgetting of Shabbos, so it's only one karban. Okay, he's not done. This is just the beginning of the day. V'chazar, he goes back, v'katzer v'tachan, he harvests and he grinds, ki gregris, another gregris. Another gregris is a fig, the size of a fig. He's grinding grain, the size of a fig. V'zadin Shabbos v'shigas malachas. Now already he knows that it's Shabbos, but he forgets that these malachas are aser. He still doesn't know that what he did before was prohibited, because before he forgot that it was Shabbos. Now he knows that it's Shabbos, but he forgets that it's sort of like taking turns in his mind, what he's forgetting here. But he doesn't know that he did a sin yet. Now, he remembers, oh my gosh, it's Shabbos. I did this before. He remembers today is Saturday, today's Shabbos. So, V'zadan malachas. In other words, he remembers that first one, which means that now he has to bring one karban. Why? Because he remembers that the forgetting of Shabbos, that where he did both malachas, forgetting of Shabbos means one karban. Then Then he remembers that, it's tchina, grinding and harvesting is aser. So zadan Shabbos shigas malachas. Now he's chayav two karbanas. Okay. So he's chayav one karban for the first acts, and the doesn't sound so good. Acts one. He's chayav one malach one karban for his first, and two karbanas for the second. But the only thing is that what's going to happen here is he has a solution that ktsira geireres ktsira, and tchina, we're on top of ayin aleph. Tchina gereres tchina.
Could you just explain what Shigas Shabbos is other malachas is?
Yeah, Shigas Shabbos is Zadan Malach means I know Hilchas Shabbos. I know I'm not allowed to grind in this. I just I forgot that it was Shabbos. I woke up in the morning. I thought it was Tuesday. And I did that. I know if it would be Shabbos, I knew that I'm not allowed to do it. I just that's Shigas Shabbos. So what happens then?
But it's also Shigas Malacha. You didn't know it was Shabbos. The whole concept of Malacha is only on Shabbos.
Right.
So why isn't it both?
So
how could it be Zada and Malachas? Every Jew, at that time per se, every Jew know. We're talking about a Tinuk Shanishba or something, or
yeah.
So he knows the halachas of Malachas, but at that time it's Shigagas.
We learned this way. We at the top of Ayin Namad Aleph, the Gemara asked this question: what you're saying? What's the difference between Shigagas Shabbos or Gemara Maishna Reisha Maishna Seifa? The Gemara. Okay, one second. Let me just go back for a second. Shigagas Shabbos means that he forgot that it's Shabbos, and Shigagas Malachas means that he forgot that these Malachas are Aser, whether temporarily or he never knew. Shigas Shabbos means he forgot today's Shabbos. That's temporarily, whatever. He knows the days of the week. He forgot that he woke up. He forgot that today's Shabbos. Now, there's a big difference in din between these two. The difference is if he does many malachas, is he chayiv one karban? That's Shigas Shabbos. He's chayiv many karbanas if it's Shigas malachas. If you forget for the malachas. Now, Rav Safra on the last page wanted to say that what's the difference between this one and that one? It says, well, if you can remind him with one saying Shabbos, and he stops all of them, so that's So that's going to be just one carbon. But if you have to tell him each one, Chayrish, your Kaitzer, your Ma'amer, your Dash, your whatever, your Ma'ifa, Malavin, you have to remind him with those are separate Shigagais, and you have to bring a carbon for each one. That's what would cause him to stop. The Gemara asks on that, your question, this is 1 second, he's only stopping because of Shabbos also. So then the Gemara gives another answer that
Okay, I got it.
you only chayev on what you forgot. The carbon has to do with forgetting. What did you forget? 1 point or many points? What's happening here is he forgot. The first case was he forgot that it's Shabbos, and he did 2 malachas. So he really should be chayev 1 carbon for that. Then he continues to forget the malachas. It not continues. He switches what he forgets. Now he forgets the malachas and he remembers that it's Shabbos. So what the Gemara is doing now, what Rav is doing, is he's saying that, look, he has to bring a carbon because he realizes that it's Shabbos. So he designates a carbon for that first pair of prohibitions of Kaitzer and Teichen. He has to bring 1 carbon. Then he remembers also that that those were prohibited, and now he has to bring 2 separate karbanos. But the thing is that there was no awareness in between the 2 Kaitzers or the 2 Teichens that he did a prohibition. So that's considered as if he ate a kazayas of chelav and he ate another kazayas of chelav, because he did the same malacha of kaitzer without any awareness in between that he sinned. There wasn't awareness in between, an awareness that it's aser, or awareness of Shabbos rather. But he still didn't know in between that he did an avera. So therefore, the kaitzer adds up to being 1 malacha, both kaitzers, and both teichens add up to be 1 malacha. And his first carbon that he brings will combine with the second malachas that he did. Why? Because there was no awareness in between. It's like he did kaitzer once, and he did teichen once, because they both combine. And the interesting thing is that kaitzer and teichen together in 1 forgetting of Shabbos is only 1 carbon. So not only doesn't he need 3 karbanos, not only doesn't need 2 karbanos, but 1 carbon would satisfy, because his first awareness that he has is that I forgot that it's Shabbos and now I know that it's Shabbos. So that designation of that 1 carbon would cover the other malachas that he does. You follow? You follow? Okay. Gets slightly more complex, but once that first point is there, then we got it. Well, the main point that we're doing over here, the one like leap that we have to get over is that even though he changes in his what he knows, but because he didn't know that it was an avera, he still thinks that it's permissible for a different reason, but those combine. And then it takes us back, those malachas combine, the both kaitzers combine, that takes us back to the original carbon that he had, which was Shigas Shabbos, it's only 1 carbon. Let's go the other way. Let's say he remembers that you're not allowed to harvest. He forgot that you weren't allowed to harvest. Now he remembers at the end. The same story, but instead of remembering that it was Shabbos, first he remembers that you're not allowed to harvest. What happens now is, then he remembers the rest. So the harvesting that he has its own carbon. Why? Because he remembered that you're not allowed to harvest. When he remembers that you're not allowed to grind, then he's going to have to bring 2 karbanos, a second carbon. Just for that last case of forgetting that you're not allowed to harvest, forgetting that you're not allowed to grind. And that's what he remembers first. So that's when his chi of carbon takes place. So what happens here is katsira gereres katsira. In between the 2 harvestings, he didn't have awareness. So I don't need a separate carbon for the first harvesting. I have to bring one carbon just for harvesting, but that's okay, and that will cover the first harvesting because that harvesting is all one malacha without an awareness in the middle, awareness of sin. Utchina she'ima. Now, once I draw in the first harvesting, which that happened to be under one carbon with grinding, because that was a forgetting of Shabbos, so now I'm covered for 3 of the things that I did under one carbon. The harvesting, the second harvesting, where I forgot that it was prohibited, that requires me to bring 1 carbon just for that, but automatically gets included in that the first harvesting, because harvesting is all one. And because that first harvesting is under one category with grinding, because that was a forgetting of Shabbos, not a forgetting of the malachas. So I have 1 carbon that covers 3. However, that other grinding is going to require its own carbon. Because I don't have anything that would cover that. The reason why I have to bring, the reason why the grinding is getting covered is because I forgot that it's Shabbos. But that 4th one, that grinding that I forgot that grinding is prohibited, that I don't have covered at all. Okay. Abaya said, that's Rava's case. Rava says that you get 3 covered under 1 carbon, but that 4th one, the one corresponding to forgetting the malachas, and you forgot that grinding was prohibited, you didn't separate a carbon for that. You only separated for the harvesting. And that covered the first grinding, granted, because that was a forgetting of Shabbos. But forgetting the malacha, you don't have covered. Abaya Amar Tchina Nami Gereres Tchina, Shem Tchina Achasim. Abaya says, it gets like grandfathered in. All 4 go under one category. Why? You have grinding covered. When you designated a carbon for the harvesting, that automatically goes for the harvesting that you forgot Shabbos. That automatically covers the grinding that you forgot Shabbos. Once grinding is covered that you forgot Shabbos, so was there any awareness between that grinding and the grinding that you had that you forgot that grinding is prohibited? You didn't know that was a prohibition in between. So once you have grinding covered, it comes around and gets the other one in. It gets the other grinding in. You only need 1 carbon for this. It's Machlekes Abaye and Rava, this last case, this second case. Okay, let's leave it over here.